Let's start with big breaking news. And I really want your opinion on this because you've covered so much of the NFL and college football. Bill Belichick headed to North Carolina. Does it make sense? Will it work in your mind?
Bill Belichick has earned the right to do what he wants. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense if he's trying to become the winningest NFL coach of all time, unless he plans on coaching into his 90s. Um, but for North Carolina, I think it makes all the sense in the world. They're going to win more consistently with Bill Belichick as their head coach. I don't believe they're going to have a lot of fun from a player standpoint. If you juxtapose this to Deion Sanders, why do people want to go play for Deion? One, they feel like they're going to get coached hard. Two, they're going to have NFL coaches on the staff that allow them to understand what it's like to be in an NFL environment. And three, they're going to have a lot of fun. That's what Deion brings to the table. He's able to connect with the younger generation and he's honest with them. Bill Belichick, on the other hand, ask any of his players amongst any of his Super Bowl teams, and they will tell you the only fun that they had was winning. Bill's Patriot way only works for him. It hasn't worked for any other coaches in his tree. So he's now taking that with him to the college ranks. And I think it's only doable now because of NIL and the transfer portal. So he sees this as an opportunity to expand his coaching legacy, to coach and be, what is it, Chapel Bill. So I think they'll have fun winning. I don't think that the players will have fun being in college football with their head coach being Bill Belichick. So I think he has to loosen up a little bit more in that regard and not approach this like the NFL because it's not the NFL, even though it's creeping closer to it.
Stick with NIL and the transfer portal for a second because it feels like you know so much about development of quarterbacks. And it feels like
Oh, yeah.
now, man, there's so much pressure about play a quarterback now or they're going to get in the portal. How does the college game continue to balance development versus fear that somebody's just going to leave if they're not playing?
I think it just creates more parity. And I said this years ago when NIL became a thing and the transfer portal became a thing. It certainly hurts high school recruitment because now if you're not top five, top 10 best player or quarterback in the country, you're not going to get to go somewhere and play right away. Well, then what does that do to you? Now you're sitting on the bench and say you stay at that school for 3 years, you grow, you develop, you learn the offense, and then they bring in a 1 year guy when it's your turn to play. And that's where college football has kind of gone awry a little bit. But it is, these guys are playing for their jobs, and when I say that, I'm talking about the coaches. They know that with the transfer portal and NIL, they can go in and in 1 year, they can turn around a program. And if they feel like there's a player at a position that is a position of need for them, or maybe they have a quarterback who hasn't played a snap in college, more times than not, they're not going to really put their job on the line for the guy who's never played. So they'd rather bring in a guy who has played that can get them there faster than really spending the years that it takes to develop a guy. For example, I was a quarterback at Baylor. My freshman year, I ran a lot. By the time I was a redshirt junior and we won the Heisman, I didn't run as much. I was a pocket passer who could run. When I first got to college, I was a runner who could pass. And I don't think we're seeing that kind of development now from the college quarterbacks. And it's because of the NIL and transfer portal. Coaches are just quicker to give up on them. And it creates this massive shuffle to where you have quarterbacks who are playing for 3 or 4 different schools in a 5 year span, which I don't think is good, but it's the world we live in right now.
All right, you mentioned the Heisman, and it's never lost to me. I'm hanging out on buddies with the Heisman winner, right? Like, so I got to get your opinion. I know you can't reveal your vote, but there's a
Yep.
lot of conversation about the Heisman Trophy. And does it go to somebody that's doing something we've never seen, or to a
Yep.
running back that's sitting here doing things we haven't seen in generations? When you gauge what's it take to be a Heisman winner, and you look at this year's class, what stands out to you?
Yeah, I think it boils down to preference. The Heisman Trophy is supposed to be the best player in the country. I still think it's the best player slash most exciting player in the country that you can justify giving the award to, because there's some great players who are on 3-9 football teams, but those players typically don't win the Heisman. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Ashton Jeanty is the best player at his position in all of college football. Travis Hunter is a player who is doing things we have never seen before on both sides of the ball. It's not just snap count, it's he's making an impact on both sides of the ball. And I talked to Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman, and he was just gushing about how can a guy not just play offense and defense, but make impactful plays every single game on offense and on defense? That is the distinguishing factor for Travis Hunter. But I think for the voters, you see with the finalists, with Dylan Gabriel getting in, number one player in the number one team in the country, and Cam Ward getting in, it comes down to preference. What do they prefer? I can't predict what that is, but we will find out on Saturday. And for me, I can't reveal my vote or my preference because they'll take my vote away. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be smart and just say that we can support all of these guys without tearing down anybody. And it's going to be an exciting, reveal come Saturday.
Love the honesty on that. Let's talk preference real quick, too, because you mentioned Colorado. We just talked about the Heisman, Cam Ward. If you were the GM of an NFL team and you had the choice between Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, which quarterback would you take?
I think it depends on the position that you're in. I think that Shedeur is a more polished quarterback from an NFL scheme standpoint than Cam Ward is. I think Cam Ward has a stronger arm than Shedeur Sanders has, and there's a rawness to Cam Ward's game and his honesty when he does interviews that I actually love. It reminds me a lot of Lamar Jackson in the sense of how they communicate and the way that they talk. There's a realness there, and for Shedeur, he's real as well, but he's much more polished. He's got a dad in Deion Sanders who has kind of walked him through this entire process, developed him, and from a quarterback, I saw Shedeur from high school to Jackson State to Colorado. He might be the single quarterback that has made the biggest jumps since I saw him in high school to what he is today. So anticipation is his game. I would take Shedeur Sanders at this point because I feel like he's ready to play day one. Not that Cam Ward isn't, but you're asking me what my preference would be between the two, and it would be Shedeur.
RG3, appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks for hanging out.
Appreciate you, brother. And you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up.
Thanks, bro.